Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Pizza Motor Cast. This is yours, Dave. I got on the line a special guest, Rodney Rish, driver of the Blown Retirement All-Call Funny Car. How you doing, Robin?
I'm here. Good afternoon.
So last weekend you were at the historic event with all those funny cars.
We weren't going to miss that race in Ennis. That was over 70 funny cars. Hadn't happened ever to my knowledge.
So why don't you recap the weekend for us?
Well, our weekend went pretty quick. We went down there and got set up on Thursday. Made our two qualifiers on Friday, one on Saturday, and our best run was in the fives. It was going to take a low four to get in the last field. This was a brand new car for us, so even though we were trying to get tested before we went to Ennis, that didn't happen because of scheduling. We've got some other crew member problems that were unfortunate for us, but we knew we wanted to go to that race, and so we went there cold, tested the car. We went A to B. True, we do need to step up our performance, but it was a good weekend all around. We got a lot of exposure. We got to meet a bunch of the guys that are going to be on the tour, on the Funny Car Chaos tour with us for the rest of the year. It was a good week, and the event itself was just awesome.
Yeah, you can't say enough about Chris and Tara, right?
Oh man, they just over the top.
Yeah, just gonna keep getting bigger and bigger at Funny Car Chaos.
Well, I was racing with Chris Ray when him and his dad were running the SHRA out of Texas, which is a nostalgia hot rod organization. And we had a front engine dragster and a front engine altered that we were running in their NE2 category from 2015 up to 2017. And even in 2018 and 2019, we were running their lower category at their Funny Car Chaos series. They always have an alcohol group that come in. And we knew that we were going to go funny car racing. It just took us a little while to get everything that we needed, get all the pieces in play. But we finally got it. We bought the chassis and body in July, and we've been throwing everything we have at it to get it ready, and that's why we were really pushing hard to make that Ennis race.
Now, are you going to make any of the other Funny Car Chaos events?
Right now, we're planning on all of them. We might pass up Odessa because it's pretty far. We're headquartered here in Guthrie, Oklahoma, and Odessa's quite a drive. And we need to make sure that we're going to have money. Here's a fun thing for the rest of this season. I'm going to have a birthday, and my son's going to have a birthday this year. That's kind of milestones. And he lives up in Nebraska, which is where I'm from. And in June, we're going to have a race in Eddyville, Iowa, in the first weekend in June. And then the second weekend in June, we got back-to-back races. The second weekend in June will be in Kearney, Nebraska, which both of those tracks are pretty close. So we can hit both of those races and not spend a whole lot of extra money in fuel getting there and back. Plus, like I say, we're going to have a little party in between for my son and myself. And I've still got a lot of family up there in Nebraska, so we want to make those two races for sure. And depending on what our sponsorship and our money situation is, we may set out Odessa and do some local races to gain some notoriety for our sponsors, and then save as much as we can because we really want to go to Eddyville, Iowa, and Kearney, Nebraska. We've got a good chance at qualifying in those two areas. And so basically, as far as our schedule is concerned, we've got Amarillo in April. We might sit out Odessa in May. Then we're going to hit Iowa and Nebraska in the first half of June. In the middle of July, it's going to be Wichita, Kansas. Then Labor Day weekend will be Joplin, Missouri. And then the finals will be in October at San Antonio. and like I say, we might sit out Odessa, and depending on what our point system looks like, if it looks like we can finish in the top 10, we'll go to San Antonio.
Awesome. So you had a real good time out there last weekend, huh?
Oh, I had a blast.
Did you get
We had a lot going on. The fortunes of racing tried to stop us, but it didn't. We met a lot of people.
Yeah.
We met a lot of interesting people that we kind of crossed paths before, and some of them found out we're going to be in Nebraska, so we've got people that we met that are from Colorado that'll probably go to Nebraska. We've got a bunch of people from north of Iowa that found out we were going to be in Eddyville, and so they're going to go there. And we just had a good time talking to everybody.
Now, with all those funny cars that were out there, how many of the drivers did you get to meet?
Not near as many as I wanted to, I'll tell you that. But some of the important ones that I wanted to meet that I kind of already, brushed elbows with, Ray Stringer has got a Chevrolet combination that they're running 89% nitromethane.
Yeah, the blown scentless car.
And, of course, because I'm an old drag race kid from way back, nitromethane is in my blood, and that's where our program eventually is heading. And I don't have, unless we get a big-time sponsor to come up and put some more money on us, we're probably going to stick with a Chevrolet combination. So I want to get to know all these guys that are running Chevrolet combinations and running nitro, so I can see what kind of success they have and what kind of problems they have, so we can kind of ease into that as best we can.
Now, that would be a good match race, Robin. Blown scentless versus blown retirement.
Yeah.
Yep. So did you get to?
Because neither one of us have any money.
Did you get to meet Del Worsham?
No, I kind of halfway met him at a national event years ago. He was much younger then, but we were pretty busy with all those drivers and with everything that was going on there. The guys that we're going to really be dealing with on a constant basis, I kind of wanted to, get to know them and get real close with them and know a little bit about, just who they are personality-wise.
Yeah. Now, how about, did you talk to, like Tim Wilkerson or Scott Palmer at all?
No, I don't. I wanted to get with Scott Palmer, and I just didn't get around to it. Tim Wilkerson, again, at national events a while back, I've met Tim and I've met some of his crew and talked to them. I know I've always liked Tim Wilkerson. I started watching him way back in the early 90s when he was an alcohol racer out of Division III, and he was always a good driver and just always a great guy. And when he started running for the John Costanza Institute, I thought he was just born to drive that car. And then John Costanza pulled the plug in the late 90s, and I was really glad when Timmy had all of his own stuff to step up and run a nitro program. And I was also happy when, what year was it? When he was in second place at the end of the year, in the early 2000s.
So let me rewind the clock with you, Robin, and ask you, how did you get into drag racing in the first place?
Well, when I was very young, my brother and I've got several brothers, but my older brother had a paper route, and he hired me. And so when we were young, we had lots of money. And so we always bought car magazines. He was kind of a gearhead like me. And my dad was a truck driver, so my dad was real big on maintenance and repairs. And so we just naturally knew how to work on things even at a young age. And we built model cars and entered them in hobby stores because there was always a model car contest everywhere. And, of course, having all that stuff and reading all the magazines, I knew all the guys that were making headlines, and then my brother, when he got a driver's license, took me out. This is when we lived in Nebraska, and we went to the racetrack out there, and several people were there with funny cars. Vern Motes, who was very young at the time, brought his from Iowa, and Guzman and Ward, an Assassination Corvair, brought their car from Colorado. Tom Hoover came down from the north. We had a local guy named Gene Kidder that had a injected nitro Barracuda. A couple other guys were there, and match racing, and it just bit me hard. And I started drag racing, and there wasn't any looking back for me.
So what year did you start drag racing?
Oh, you want to know that? Boy, you're gonna put a number on me. I went down the racetrack for the first time in 1968.
Oh, that's when I was born. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first year, and then I did that in my dad's panel van. I had a Pontiac Firebird after that, and raced it for a year, and then I got me a Oldsmobile 442 and raced it for 2 years. Won my first bracket championship with that, and then in the mid-'70s, I bought a funny car body, and I had a bunch of chassis stuff and front end and rear end stuff. Of course, engine and transmission was no problem for me, but that particular funny car program never got off the ground. I had to sell it, and it just broke my heart. And years later, when I had an opportunity to buy that front engine dragster, I told my wife, I said, we're going to go drag racing. I'm remarried, and we got the stepkids grown and out of the house, and I said, it's time. I said, I missed it when I was younger, and we're going to do this. And she's behind it 100%.
That's awesome. So now, when you first started drag racing, what was the first car you raced in?
Well, I kind of snuck out with my dad's panel truck and raced it in pure stock. And I kind of got nervous, so I never did that again. After that, I had a 68 Firebird, Pontiac Firebird 4-speed car, and I drove that for a whole season. And after that, I had to sell the Firebird, and I was working at a dealership, and they took in a 65 Oldsmobile 442, and I did the used car prep on it, and I drove it, and I said, I got to have that car. And I bought that car with 40,000 miles on it for $550, and I raced that for 3 seasons, and it was the fastest car I'd been in. So
you had success with that car?
Yeah, I won a bracket championship in '71, and of course back then we didn't have all the fun stuff that we got now on a timing slip from the racetrack. You know, now we see our 60-foot time, our 3:30 time, our 8-mile time, our 1,000-foot time, and our quarter-mile time, and you see your reaction time. There's all kinds of information that we get now. Back then you didn't. You got no reaction time. You got ET and mile per hour at the end of the track, and that was it. And I used to win a lot of my races with a slower car, and I used to win a lot of my races on heads-up stuff when both cars had the same ET. And so I knew I was pretty good on the starting line, and I just knew that that's what, you know, it was in my blood. And when I had to give up that funny car stuff, that broke my heart.
So how was your first time experience going down the track in your dad's truck?
Well, that was. I really don't remember much about it because it really scared me. You know, I didn't want my dad to find out because he was not a drag race fan at first, and so I never did tell him. I never did it again, and I don't even remember what kind of time it ran.
So when was the first time you drove a funny car?
The first time I drove a funny car was this past weekend. That was my maiden voyage.
So how was the first time driving a funny car for you?
What's that? How was it?
Was it a rush?
Oh yeah. The biggest rush was just being up there at the Texas Motor Place. That was awesome. Going underneath the awning there, coming out and seeing the racetrack right in front of you, all painted up and pretty, and all the other guys around you. I mean, it was history, bud. It was history.
Now, after all the years of drag racing, Robin, what still keeps the passion going?
Say that again. What keeps my passion going?
Yeah, after all the years of racing, what still keeps the passion?
I'm not sure I can answer that. I just want to do it.
Okay,
I'm not sure how else to put it.
What do you enjoy most about being a drag racer?
Well, as far as being a drag racer,
Yeah, what do you enjoy the most?
I like working on it. I like building it. I like putting all this stuff together and fabricating and seeing how it all comes together and then putting it on the track and then going back to the shop and make it go faster.
Got that need for speed, huh, Robin?
Say that again?
I said you got that need for speed, huh?
I guess so.
The bug. You're bit.
It ain't fast enough yet.
You got bit by
One
that.
thing I do want to do before I'm too old to get a license, I want to go 200 miles an hour.
Well, it's better you got bit by the racing bug than get bitten by a black widow or a scorpion.
Yeah, I got plenty of them around the shop.
I know, that's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny that day, and I thought, well, let's see, put them together and see which one would win.
Yeah, who's gonna sting each other first?
Yeah, but they weren't happy, so I just got rid of it with sprinkling.
Yeah, you weren't happy with the fight either, so you killed him off.
That's right. It was taking too long. I had work to do.
Yeah, I don't got time for you guys.
Yeah.
So what do you hate? What do you hate most about being a drag racer? Anything?
What do I hate?
Yeah. Besides the money being spent.
Well, the money's tough, but I don't hate that. Without the money, it just doesn't happen. And even though, a part of me is a little envious of the guys that have unlimited money, but the truth is, what mankind has done with these machines is just awesome. And you got to have that upper end just to show the rest of the world what this is all about. And I'll tell you what, those guys that are up there running 330 miles an hour in about 3.6 seconds, that's incredible. And without the money, that ain't going to happen. And so I don't hate the money. I don't hate the hard work. Probably what's hardest for me to get my head around, and it's not that I hate it, but for people I just like for people to come out and enjoy it, and it's hard to do that. It's hard to get everybody to come out because the tracks are always so far apart. And back in the heyday, we used to read in our magazines, gosh, those guys out in California would hit 3 different racetracks on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and never go more than 150 miles. And they'd pack the stands wherever they went. And, I was a Nebraska boy. I didn't get to go out there back in the day. And by the time I got old enough to do that kind of stuff, I was raising a family, and so I kind of missed some of that. But this Funny Car Chaos series that Chris has put together is really a throwback to that type of mentality and that type of attitude. And the guys that are coming out and competing in this series, they're all great guys. They love the sport. They love what they're doing. And I just wish the tracks were closer together and we could have more of it, do it every other weekend. And, of course, financially that would be almost impossible, but I guess in a way that's what I lament. I don't hate it, but that's what I lament.
Now, you're talking about guys going over 300 miles per hour. How about Richard Hartman and Kevin Kinsley last weekend, huh?
That was pretty slick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a new record on every pass.
Yep.
I'm kind of glad that old Timmy Wilkerson was behind the one that finally ended up being the best.
Yeah, but they were neck and neck, the War Wagon, and you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was some fast cars, man. So now, let me ask you this, Robin. If you could have the drag race fans that come on watch you race, remember one thing about you, what would you want that one thing to be that the fans remember about you, Robin?
Well, I'd like them to think that I'm approachable and that I'm friendly.
Oh, you sound like a real friendly guy.
Well, I'll try to be.
So you people listening, make sure you go to the pit area and say hi to Robin when you go out and watch him race.
I'll tell you what, anybody that's listening to you that comes out, tell them to come up and we'll give them a signed driver's card and show them around the car and give them a personal tour.
If you got some little kids, he'll throw them in the driver's seat.
Yeah. And they can sit in the driver's seat and we'll take a picture of them.
Yeah, that's a memory of a lifetime right there.
Well, I'd like to get as many kids going as possible.
So how was it for you last weekend when they put the hood down on you? No claustrophobia?
No, I've had it down before. I don't have any problem with claustrophobia, and it really isn't hard for me because the crew and I have been working on this car since last July. I knew driving it was going to be very similar to our altered, even though the altered is an open cockpit. I wasn't too worried about the body being down. And really, when the body's down, a lot of people don't realize it, but that driver's cockpit is huge. I've got all kinds of room. Now, you're kind of squeezed in by the roll cage, but the driver's cockpit in general is cavernous. I love all that space. Your visual around the track is a little limited because there's not as much as there would be in an open cockpit. But, no, I'm not worried at all. I don't mind, and I'm not claustrophobic one bit.
Now, what year is that body on that car?
It's supposed to be a 2000 Camaro.
Okay. Now, when you got that car, that paint job was already on there, or you got that paint job on there?
Yeah, the paint job and the chassis was already established when we bought it, and that was part of what I liked about it. Was there was going to be very little to do to prep the show part of it. I knew that we were going to have to do all the mechanicals and put an engine and transmission in it and get it to be mechanically sound, but I needed a car where the visual was already set.
So you weren't the one that came up with the blown retirement then?
Say that again?
I said, so you weren't the one that came up with the name blown retirement?
Well, I'm not sure. It kind of evolved. See, I do a little bit of customer work at the shop that I have. If somebody needs a tune-up or they need a brake job or something like that, I'll do that. And the truth is, I should have retired about 8 years ago. But that's also when we bought the dragster. So, as far as blown retirement, yeah, it's blown.
Yeah. So how many years did you drive the dragster for?
Well, we got it in 2012 and made it operational in 2014, and we went to some races with it. And then in 2015 is when we put the supercharger on it and had a blown combination and raced it for 2015 and 16. And then some things were going on with our altered program in the off season. We really got it from my stepson, but he kind of needed to step away from the program. And since his Altered was configured with our blower on it, and it fit our trailer a little better than my dragster did, I just used his Altered for the next 3 years, from 2017 to 2019, and competed in it.
So how'd you do in the dragster? You had success with the dragster?
Did I what with the dragster?
Did you have success with the dragster?
Well, you have to define success. We didn't win very many rounds, and we didn't come into the final on any of the races, but we were steadily stepping up our performance and learning the blower application and what we needed to do to run the numbers that we wanted to run. And learning all that is pretty important. And so to say success, I think we were successful in learning what we needed to know and apply it. We applied everything that I learned on the dragster to the Altered, and then we were able to recognize some of the differences and how we needed to adjust for a shorter wheelbase. And now we've got a little bit of knowledge, and we're going to apply all that knowledge to the funny car. And hopefully that'll take us where we need to go to get qualified at these Funny Car Chaos Series races and get in the show and go some rounds and win some money.
So what was the fastest pass you made in the dragster?
I'm keep missing a little bit of that because we're cutting in and out. But ask that question again.
So what was the fastest pass that you made in the dragster?
Oh, the fastest pass we made in the dragster was we were in the 490s several times, and right at the 140 to 140 mile an hour range.
Now, how about the Altered?
And the Altered took a little bit more blower and a little bit more fuel, but we finally got it a little bit faster, but our mile per hour was still a little bit slower. We actually never ran in the 140s. That was all 138 and 139.
Then last weekend with the funny car, what kind of what did you run?
Well, our first two passes we struggled and we aborted the runs. On our final pass, we kind of wounded it, and so it was not a representative run. But it was fast enough to give me a little bit of knowledge on how it's going to steer. Of course, this being a first car and me being a first-time funny car pass, I wanted to make sure that the car was going to handle, that it was going to respond to my actions as a driver. You don't want to get out there at 100 to 150 miles an hour and find out that it doesn't steer the way you want it to. But all of that we accomplished. The car is a good car. It responded very well. I'm not even sure what our peak mile per hour was, but it was well over 100 miles an hour. And that's fast enough to tell me that when I'm moving the steering wheel and when I'm working the brake and the gas, that it's going to do what I want. It's going to go where I point it. And that's what's really important for this next race at Amarillo.
So how do you get better as a driver?
A whole bunch of races. Just keep going.
Just a lot of seat time, huh?
Yeah, it's just a lot of seat time and getting familiar with the car. The more I got familiar with the dragster and the more I got familiar with the Altered, the more ease I was, and it was just easier to drive it and make it do what it's supposed to do. When you're able to do that as a driver, then all the work that we do as a mechanic and as a crew, we know that we can make that happen because I'm comfortable in the car and I'm comfortable making it what we know it's set up, how it's set up to perform.
Now, do you have any drag racers that were big inspirations for you when you were, when you started out drag racing?
Well, the guys that were really inspirational to me, obviously Don Garlitz and Don Perdome. There's a lot of others, but when I was young and we were reading magazines, I was always impressed with the group called the Surfers out of California. And when I was young, I thought they were wise old men just like Don Garlitz and Walt Austin and all those guys, the Chris Karamessinis, all the older guys. And then I later found out they just got out of high school. They were in college, and they built that Top Fuel car and were almost an instant success in 1963, 64, and 65. They won the Mickey Thompson Gathering of Giants, and they were all just kids. They were in their early 20s. And so those guys really inspired me.
Wow. So now, when you go out racing, who are your crew members, Robin?
Who are they?
Yeah, who are your crew members?
Well, I've got Danny Day and I've got Bob McMillan. Danny's a fellow mechanic, and he's also an administrator at the Aero Record Service down in Oklahoma City, who has all the city and state contracts. And Bob's my engineer. He's got a huge background in engineering, and he keeps me straight on all this stuff because I'm just an old backyard mechanic, and I want to fab this stuff together. So he tells me what I can do and what I can't do with all this. We've got a young fellow by the name of Dylan Randall, who is also an engineer, and he's 23, I believe, with 2 degrees out of OSU. And then my wife is the tow person. And right now we're looking for other crew members to kind of come in and help fill in.
Now, do you have any sponsors at all?
Well, we've got some light-duty sponsors we're working on.
Now, what?
I almost forgot, and I need to talk. We've got a new crew member, and I forgot to mention him. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt our sponsor question, but Eric Talbot is one of our newest crew members, and he's one of the senior mechanics at Smitty's Restoration. And so we're working on sponsorships with a lot of different companies. We've got some small sponsorships from some friends at carburetor shops and transmission shops and cam regrinders. And I want to make sure that we're solid with all of them before I mention their names. But we're working on some sponsorship programs there, and we're just ready now that we've got the car running and we're ready to hit this series on a full-time basis. Now we're prepared to really talk to some sponsors and tell them what we can do.
Awesome. Now, Robin, what are your favorite tracks to race on?
What am I what?
What are your favorite tracks to go race at?
Probably one of my really favorite tracks is closed down. It was Denton. I love that track. We went several times to Wichita Falls, Texas, and I really like that one too. And obviously, after this weekend, we're gonna have a good time next year at the Texas Motorplay. But one thing that we've really tried, we've been a couple times, and we want to focus heavily on the guys up in Ark City at Mid-America Dragway. They're some of the nicest guys in the world. They've really treated us well. The few times we've been up at that track, I really like the operation. They've upgraded the facility a lot. And the guys up there just seem like they're on the same page we are with all their drag racing programs and the direction that they want to take that track. And that's what we're going to call our home track.
All right, now Robin, when you get out there in the staging lanes, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions at all when you get out there?
Well, I give a little prayer to my Lord Jesus because I know He's watching over me, and I'll tell you what, I would not have this program at all if it weren't for the good Lord putting all this stuff in front of me, because I sure couldn't have done it by myself. But as far as my rituals, I just try to keep myself calm, keep myself focused, and, you know, in the dragster and the altar, that was pretty easy because I felt comfortable in it. And I think I think I'm starting to get real comfortable in this funny car. So I really don't have a whole lot of rituals. Once I'm strapped in, I'm ready to go, and it's just a matter of that. Then I'm anxious for the motor to fire up and hit the track.
Now, do you prefer quarter mile or eighth mile racing?
Well, I prefer quarter mile racing, but right now we've got everything geared for this Funny Car Chaos Series, which is dedicated to 8 mile, and just about all of our equipment. We're heavily focused on 8 mile racing. That's a little less stress on the equipment. It's a little quicker, and that's just kind of where we're at right at the moment.
Now, where do you order all your fire and safety equipment from?
Most of my safety equipment comes from White out here in Choctaw, Oklahoma. I know that Carl White, when he was alive, he just passed a couple years ago. Carl White and Don Stroud were partners in Stroud Safety Equipment for a long time. And I believe it was about 15 years ago that Carl White went out on his own. Great people. I love their equipment. And they treat me well. They know me. And they're working real hard for me.
Now, what kind of tires are you running on your funny car?
When we bought this chassis, it had brand new Hoosiers on it, and I ran with Goodyears and Hoosiers on the other 2 cars, and I really haven't had any issues with either one, but the Hoosiers do seem to function very nice, and so we're going to keep with what we know for now, and once we get all of our mechanical stuff with the engine and transmission where we're starting to do the fine-tuning, then we'll maybe look and see if there's a way that we can gain a little extra performance by changing tires and different compounds. But for now, if we're not having trouble, we're not going to fix what ain't broke.
All right, now, have you hit any milestones in your drag racing career so far?
Well, one of my milestones, I ran 150 mile an hour in a quarter mile with our dragster. And, of course, we didn't run quarter mile with it very much. Most of that was just testing. But I would like to hit 150 miles an hour in the 8th mile. And like I said, sometime real soon, I hope that we can hit 200 miles an hour.
Now that'd be on your bucket list, huh?
That's definitely on my bucket list. That and a nitro combination.
So if you were to go nitro, you would want to run what, like 85% nitro maybe?
Whatever we do when we start running nitro, I've actually run 12% in our alcohol combination at Wichita Falls, Texas. And it adds a little more pop and it makes it a little more crisp, and we gained about a 10th. But really, when we put a nitro motor together, we're going to be above 70%, maybe even above 80%. That's one of the things that I want to find out from some of these guys that have got nitro Chevys. The Chevrolet combination isn't as favorable as the Chrysler combination, and so you got to be real careful when you're burning nitro. And but we're gonna keep it high percentage.
All right, got a few more questions for you, Robin.
Okay.
Outside of drag racing, do you have any other hobbies?
Well, I told you I had to get rid of some funny car stuff way back a long time ago, and at that point in my life, I had an opportunity to play baseball, so I played semi-pro baseball for 20 years. I'm also kind of a rock and roll kid and was in a band when I was young, and I've played music all my life. And
so what do you play, guitar?
So I guess, yes, I do.
So you still play the guitar?
I do.
What kind of guitar do you have?
Well, I've got a little Fender, and I've got a Takamine. I used to have an Ibanez, and I used to have a Fender Electric. Got rid of some of them, but I really like this little acoustic acoustic electric fender that I got. It's real easy to play. But I'll play anything.
So your favorite music's rock and roll. Who's your favorite rock and roll band?
Well, my favorite rock and roll band's the Beach Boys, but I like all kinds of music.
You like Elvis?
I guess.
Johnny.
Elvis is kind of the king, but
you like Johnny Cash?
I like Johnny Cash.
Willie Nelson?
I like Willie Nelson. I tell you, I'm kind of a country nut as well as a rock and roll kid, and for a few years I even played regularly with a friend of mine that grew up around country music and knew Johnny Cash.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, if you could hit a time travel machine and go backwards in time, would you do anything differently with your drag racing career?
Oh boy. I mean, I really enjoyed playing baseball, but and you know, we always like to think that we'd do something different so that we take advantage of some opportunities that we lost. I probably wouldn't do anything different. Leaving drag racing for a short period of time did break my heart, but I made the most of it, and getting to this point, that time off has helped fire the excitement that I have right now, and I don't think there's anything else that would have kept that burning. You know, they say absence makes the heart grow stronger. Well, I'll tell you what, right now, I'm ready. I'm all in with this funny car, and we are going to do this, and we're going to make this thing exceptional.
So what are you looking forward to the most out of the rest of the racing season?
I'm hoping to hit our milestones. I'd like to think that by the time we go to Kearney, Nebraska in June, I'd like to think that we're approaching the 450 mark in the 8th mile. And then by the end of the season, I'd like to think that we've got a combination that is durable as well as competitive, and that we'll have enough seat time with all the running that we're doing so that next season when we start out, instead of being a spectator, we'll be in the show and go into the final round.
Well, you got plenty of fellow funny car drivers out there with funny car kids. They'll be more than happy to help you out.
Oh, they're all great guys, every one of them.
Yep, that's the great thing about drag racing, that everyone is usually willing to help everybody.
And that's what this series has really brought back, and it's I can't say enough about it. It really is placing the emphasis on camaraderie and guys just having fun and just being out there with all the different combinations. It's so diverse and it's so much fun, and it just can't get any better.
Yeah, Chris said he's going to keep it grassroots.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, Robin, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do the interview tonight.
Well, thank you for taking the time to get a hold of me. I really enjoyed this.
No, that's what I try to do. I like to try to promote to all you drag racers. I don't care if you're just starting out or whatever. I just promote drag racing.
Well, that's great, and I appreciate it, Dave.
Oh, you're welcome. We'll do another one in the future. Hopefully, we'll talk about the big 200, hitting 200 miles.
We'll talk about how many final rounds I'm in.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again, and you have a great night, Robin.
Thanks a lot, Dave. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.